Good morning, Year 8. Today I wanted to take the transformation stuff that we've been doing, that's the reflection, the rotation, the translation and the enlargement, just a step further. So I'm going to now do a piece of work which I then want you to do in your exercise books on a piece of squared paper over the course of the next couple of days, so today and tomorrow. So you're going to watch me do the exercise first, then you're going to do something not identical to what I'm going to do, but something similar. So what's this all about then? Well, when you get to GCSE in a few years' time, you will get some questions where you have to do rotation, reflection, translation and enlargement. You'll definitely do at least 2 of those in a GCSE exam, maybe all 4. The big difference between the GCSE version of what you have to do and what you've done so far is that you'll do it on a coordinate grid. So we're going to do a piece of work now where we practice doing a rotation, a reflection, a translation and an enlargement of a shape on a coordinate grid. Now, you should already know what a coordinate grid is, so the first thing I'm going to do is to draw one. It doesn't have to be too large, so I'm going to go probably 10 squares down, 10 squares up from the origin. So if I just draw a line across there like that, and I make that my origin, I need to go 10 squares down, 10 squares up. And I'm going to mark it off every 2. The reason I'm doing every 2 is because if you do every 1 with the marks, it gets a bit cluttered. So I'm going to do every 2. Okay, so there'll be 5 marks for each direction that I go in from the center. This is called the origin here, the middle. I'm sure you will have done some coordinate work last year with your teacher, so seeing a diagram like this shouldn't be too strange for you. You should know what it is. Okay, so we normally put a little arrow on the end here and a little arrow on the end here, and this line here is called an axis, and hopefully you know this, it's actually called the x-axis, so with a little x on the end there like that, and this one up here is called the y-axis. Now when you're doing science or maybe something else in math, they don't have to be called x and y. They could have different letters depending upon what it is that you're studying or doing an experiment on in science. Very often in science, the X is actually a T because it stands for time, but it could be anything. Anyway, none of that matters because we're not talking about any specific thing here, just doing it for maths' sake. So when we're just doing it for maths' sake, we don't tend to use any other letters than X and Y, which is why you see them coming up all the time. So we're going to use X and Y. So I've marked off all the places on my diagram. I just need to now put the values at these points. So I'm going in 2s. Like I say, if you tried to do all of the points, you would struggle. You would get a bit cluttered on your diagram. So I'm just going to mark them off every 2. So we go from -10 up to 10 on the y-axis, and we go from -10 to 10 on the y-axis. And this point here is called the origin, sometimes marked with a little 0. So I'll put a little 0 there so you can see it. Okay, so we haven't done any transformations yet. We've just set up our diagram. What I'm now going to do is to choose somewhere on the page, and it could be anywhere I like, to be my start shape. And what I'm going to choose to do for my start shape is I'm going to do a letter, and it's going to be a letter from my name, so it's going to be the first letter of my first name, which is an M. So it's a little bit more complicated than some of the shape. I'm not very good. I've just realised I'm not very good at actually doing letters. So I'll do my best. What does an M look like? I've forgotten now. So an M's like that, isn't it? So I need to come up to about there. You're probably looking at this now thinking, oh sir, what are you doing? But I will do my best to do a reasonable M. One more, would you say, guys? Down one. Oh, I can't decide. Do I go up one more and down there? Yeah, that'll look better, won't it? If I do it like that. Oh yeah, that looks a bit more like an M, doesn't it now? Talk amongst yourselves while Sir just works out how to draw a letter. Now I want you to choose your own letter or shape to do. I don't want you to do an M, unless obviously your name begins with an M. But even then, I'd rather your M wasn't exactly the same as mine. And you don't have to do it in the same place as me either. It could be anywhere. Right, it's going to look a bit strange now because I want to go down onto the. Yeah, that's fine. There we go. So that's a nice M. Now, the only thing I've made sure of when I drew my M was that all of the points in the corners of the M were on the corners of squares. I don't want anything fancy like going in the middle of a square. So stick with the corners of the square. It'll make it much easier for you when you do your translations and stuff. Right. Need a colour to choose for my basic shape. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a neutral colour for this. I'm going to use black. And I'm just going to very lightly shade it in. Very lightly because I don't want to lose all the corners. I want to be able to see them to help me with my translations. Yes, I'm going to make this a very colourful exercise. I want to use different colours for the 4 different translations that I'm going to do. And then I'm going to draw them in 4 different colours down here so I know which one's which. Right. Okay, so I've got to choose one to start with, and I'm going to choose to start with enlargement to get it out of the way because the enlargement one's the one which is going to take up the most room because I'm going to make this shape bigger now. Okay, so I need to choose a centre of enlargement that makes sure that it ends up somewhere on the grid and doesn't end up down here or down here or down here. So I kind of explained this to you the other day. Your centre of enlargement needs to be the opposite side to where you want the shape to end up. So I'm going to enlarge by a scale factor of 2. I suggest you do the same because if you try and do 3, it'll get too big. And I need to put my centre of enlargement somewhere on the grid so that it ends up going either up here or across here. So I'm going to put it tentatively. I'm going to put it here, at this point here. Okay, that's going to be my centre of enlargement. I am now going to enlarge the shape. So, if you recall, to do this, all you do is you pick a point on the shape, any point you like. So I'm going to pick this one here, and you draw a line from that point going down there like that. I could have chosen any of the points, I just happened to choose that one there. Then, what I do is I count down and across. So 1 down and 2 across. And I've gone to scale factor 2, so I need to double those values. So instead of being 1 down and 2 across, I'm going to go 2 down and 4 across. And that is going to be the new place for that point there on my M. And then all I need to do is to draw the new M. I don't need to check any of the others, I just need to draw it twice as big as it was before. So this stick here is now that long, and that was 1, 2, 3, 4, so it's going to be 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now you'll notice that mine is overlapping my original shape, which is a bit of a pain, and I kind of realised it was going to happen halfway through, but I thought, well, I've started now, so I'm just going to keep going. So I'm doing a sort of double-sized version of my M now. So I'm looking at all the lines, I'm just making sure they're twice as long as they were originally, and that will be my new larger sized M. Are you still there? Are you bored yet? Have you all gone away? Am I talking to myself? Does anybody ever watch these videos? You must do, because you do the work. So thank you for that. Right, there's my M. Okay, now I've done my enlargement. What I'm going to do now it ended up quite close to the original shape because of the centre of enlargement being quite close to the original. If you want it to be further away, I needed to put this a little bit further into the middle of the diagram so that I get a bit more space to work. Okay, so yours will be different. I mean, you can put your original shape anywhere you like on the diagram, and then choose your centre of enlargement carefully. Right, I need a colour. I'm going to go green. I don't know why. I'm going to shade that in green, very light, especially over the bit that overlaps. There we go. I'm going to shade it in very lightly, and that is my enlargement. A little bit thicker so you can see it. There we go. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to describe that enlargement down here at the bottom of my page using the same colour or a key. Actually, I'm going to use a key. I've changed my mind. I'm going to use a key because I don't think this is going to write very well. So I'm going to colour in a square here in green, the same colour as the enlargement, like that. And I'm going to write alongside what it was. So it was an enlargement. That's a given. Right, but if I just say it's an enlargement, it doesn't describe it fully. So I also need to say what the scale factor was. And if you remember, I said it was scale factor 2. There we go. And I also need to say where the centre of enlargement is. And the centre of enlargement is this point here. Now, if you did coordinates last year, you will know that we can describe a point using coordinates. And this point here would be the point -10, -7. So you do the x first and then the y. So it's along the corridor to -10, down the stairs to -7. So it's an enlargement, scale factor 2, about, the point that it's about, the centre, -10, -7. Well, I've done my enlargement. I said this was quite a long piece of work. I'll do 4 of these. That's why I'm giving you 2 lessons to do this. I'm going to take you half a lesson just to watch me doing it. So there's the enlargement. Scale factor 2, about centre, -10, -7. Right. I'm now going to move on to doing either reflection, rotation, or enlargement, or translation. I think I'm going to do the rotation next. Okay, and I'm gonna rotate it so that it ends up sort of up here, because I've got a bit of space up here. So I want it to sort of turn round like that. Once again, I can choose where my centre of rotation is going to be. So I am going to choose. A lot of people, if you're really not sure what's going to happen, the safest bet is to choose the centre here, because you can pretty much guess it's going to end up round there. But just to be a little bit more adventurous, I'm going to choose a point not quite on the centre, because it will have some sort of effect as to where it ends up. I need to make sure that it does end up somewhere in the diagram. So I'm just going to practice a minute, just where, because I'm actually pretty rubbish at this, if I'm honest. Right, I'm going to go for this point here. Fingers crossed this works. If it doesn't go on the grid, well, I might have to choose a different one, but hopefully that will be okay. So if you remember, the way you do this is you draw the shape somewhere on your tracing paper or baking paper, or not at all if you haven't got any, in which case if you're going to do a rotation without tracing paper, you probably want to put the centre somewhere on the shape itself, because you might be able to do it then. Like if I didn't have tracing paper, I would probably have put my centre there, and then I can see where it turns or something like that. Anyway, you'll get the idea. Right, okay, so there's my centre, there's the shape. I'm going to do the magic cross. There's nothing magical about it. It's just really useful to do this plus sign thing, because I know when I've turned through 90 degrees. Now I'm going to turn that way, which I believe is clockwise. Well, no, I know it's clockwise. Okay, and I'm going to turn it round, and I know when to finish from looking at, you can't see it, looking at the plus sign, bingo, until it lines up again as a plus sign. So mine ends up there. I have been very lucky. It has just about fitted on the page. and it's ended up there in that top corner there. Okay, so now I have to draw it in that position, and to do that I have to kind of be a bit clever and sort of, this is my preferred, other people have different ways of doing this, but this is my preferred method, is to just kind of get an idea for where it starts. I can move this out of the way now and just sort of copy it. It's 4 across there, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, and then so I think I've got this now. That goes there, like that. I'll show you again that it's right once I've finished. It goes down there, that goes there. I have to sing when I've got nothing to say to you. Pass the time. So, get as quick as I can to get this done. Okay, that goes down there. That goes down there. The nice thing if you're at home is I can't tell if you're paying attention or not. I mean, you might be, I don't know, getting a cup of tea now, stroking the cat. Who knows? Right, anyway, let's put it back just to show you that that is indeed correct. So put that on there. 90 degrees clockwise. Bingo, it fits. Right, so I've got my center of rotation there. I've got my original shape there. It's ended up there. All I need to do now is to colour and describe. So I'm going to go for a nice orange, a bright, vibrant orange for this one. So I'm going to shade him in. Like so. And I'll do a little square down here. And I shall describe what I have done. So this one is a rotation. And it's 90 degrees clockwise. I went round in the same direction as a clock. If I'd gone the other way, it would have been anti-clockwise. And I'm going to say that this one is about the center, this point here. Shout it out if you know it before I say it. Shout out to the screen now. It's 3, -1. Lovely. Okay, so we've got a rotation, we've got an enlargement. What next? Let's do the reflection. And then the last one's the easy one, so we can do the translation at the end. So now for the reflection, I said when we did the reflection that you're only ever going to have to reflect either horizontally, vertically, or diagonally. Okay. Now I want my shape to end up sort of up here somewhere, so I'm going to go for a diagonal reflection. Now if you're doing a diagonal one, can I suggest you only do it about the origin on a 45-degree angle, either like that or like that. And I'll say something about how we describe where the line is in a minute. Okay, so I'm actually going to draw on the diagram my mirror line. Now when I'm drawing this on, just so it doesn't look like part of the normal diagram, I'm going to do it as a sort of a dotted line. It's very important you get this in the right place. So actually maybe a dotted line is a bad idea, maybe it's best to use a proper line. What I would do is I would find the points -10, 10, which is there. Let's get this right. And 10 -10, which is there. Okay, and then join them up, because that way, because they're a nice long way apart, you'll get a nice accurate line like that. Oh, that's my phone going off. My son. I will pause in the video. I shall be back in a mo. Right, dealt with the phone call. I'm back. Just to let you say, if you're not comfortable with these diagonal reflections yet, then by all means do a horizontal, or a vertical one, and that will be fine. Okay, you can draw your line down like that or across like that and do it reflected that way. But I'm going for a diagonal because I want to go all out with this. So anyway, there's the line there. It does have a name, but I'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, because I might need to give you a little bit of help of what we'd actually call this line in maths, or if it went that way, what we'd call it, or if it went down or across. So I'll give you a little bit of help with that in a minute. If you don't know what it's called, let's just give it a name that you can use instead when you're writing your description down here. We'll call it the mirror line. There's only going to be one because we're only going to do one reflection, so that'll be fine. 20 minutes this video already. Most of today you can be watching this video, I think. Right, okay, so here we go. So I've got me M. Now this one's tricky. I'm going to reflect it in that line. Now to do that, for each point I need to go to the line and then the same distance the other side. This is going to take a little bit of time. So what I'm going to do is I'll do the first one, pause the video, I'll do all the other ones, and then I'll restart the video. Okay, so I'll show you, you see what I mean. So if I start with this point here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it ends up there. Okay, I'll just do another one with the video on. I'm going to do this one. I'm working my way around. So this one here now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That ends up there like that. Okay, I am now going to pause the video and complete that job. So in a minute, when you'll see all the points will suddenly magically appear. But I'm working my way around for each of the individual points. Pausing the video now. Right, I've restarted the video, and all those dots are where all the corners of the M end up. And all I need to do now is join it all together. These are the bottoms of the M. These are the tops of the M, and this is the bit where it sort of dips down. So I'm going to start to join that up, and you should see the M magically reappear where it should go. So that's the top there, and so that's one of the legs, and then as you can see, this can be tricky, and some people find this quite difficult. Might help you if you're not sure to join it up as you go along a little bit, because once you've got all the dots on the pad, and when I showed you all the dots, you might have thought, oh my god, how does that all fit together? And it does take a bit of practice. But anyway, that is the correct reflection of that M in that line there. So I'm going to need another colour. So we'll go for a nice blue this time. Colour him in blue. There we go. And that's it. That's the reflection in that mirror line there. So for the description, all right, so it's actually quite simple to do a reflection sentence. You just say reflection in the mirror line, or just in the line would be fine. But I've given it a name. I've called it the mirror line. And if that's all you can manage to describe the mirror line, I'm fine with that. You could stop there. But as a little bit of an extension, we have done, certainly in top set, probably not so much in Mrs. Roberts set, but we have done the names. We've talked about how we describe these lines. I think when I did this topic, I called it relationships in maths or something like that, or relationship between variables. And all of these, they're not named, they're the relationship that you're representing. And so maybe just for people who've done this, though, those in my set, you might want to give these their proper descriptions. This mirror line is actually the line y equals minus x. Okay, optional. If you do the one that goes the other way, like that, it would be called the line y equals x. If you do a vertical one like that, then they are x equals whatever number you go through. So that would be x equals 2, that would be x equals 3, that would be x equals 4. And if they are horizontal, they're y equals. So that would be y equals 4, y equals 2, y equals minus 2, etc. I'm not going to say much more about that. So that there is only if you understand what I've just explained. You can go back in your book if you're in top set, and you should be able to find it somewhere. We've definitely done it. Okay, for my final transformation, I'm going to do a translation. This is the one where you just sort of move it somewhere else on the grid. So this one I'm going to do differently. I'm not actually going to choose how I'm going to move it first. I'm just going to put it somewhere. I've got a bit of space, and I'll work out later how far I've moved it and what the description of it would be, if that makes sense. So I'm going to choose to put it somewhere over here because I've got a bit of space. So I just need to do a copy of my M. To save time again, I'm going to pause the video and do it and then restart the video. Welcome back, and here he is. I've just drawn it anywhere. I haven't worked out where it is yet. Got me yellow. I'm going to colour him yellow. Nice bright yellow to finish the video off with. Okay, and I'm just going to describe what I have just done down here. So that there is a translation. Fancy word for slide it around. So when you translate a shape, it doesn't change the way it looks on the all the other three. They look different. Okay, they're turned round, they're bigger, whatever. This one looks exactly the same as the original, just in a different place. Now, to describe a translation, you have to work out how far the shape has moved, how far left or right it's gone, and how far up and down it's gone. So this one's gone to the right. It's moved over to the right and it's moved up. So I'm going to work out how far to the right it's gone and how far up. To do that, you pick a point on the shape. Say this one here. You could pick any of them. And you pick the same point on the new shape, which is this one here. And you work out how far I've gone to move that point there to that point there. You could even draw a little line on the diagram. In fact, let's do that because that might help. Okay, so I am basically describing that journey there, that diagonal line as a journey, how far across and up you travel if you go along that line. So here we go. So if I start here, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 to the right. So the translation is 14 right. And so I know if I go 14 to the right, I ended up here. And now I have to go up. So I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 5 up. So it's 14 to the right and 5 up. This obviously could be left and this could be down, or one of them could be left and one of them could be down, and the other the same as they are here. Now, once again, there is a proper way of writing this in maths, and it's called, don't get worried about what I call it, it's called a column vector. Now, a column vector looks a bit like a coordinate gone wrong, because instead of putting the two numbers next to each other, you put them one on the top of each other, and you don't use a comma either. So the one on the top is the left-right move, so you put the 14 there, and the one at the bottom is the up-down move, so you put the 5 there like that. Incidentally, if I'd have gone left rather than right, I would have put a minus sign in front of that one, and if I'd gone down instead of up, I would have put a minus sign in front of that one. So there you go. That is your work for today and tomorrow, is to try and do one of these for yourself. Okay. Now what I'm gonna, you've got the rest of today's lesson and tomorrow, so don't rush and try and do it all in one go. First job is to draw a coordinate axis and to choose a shape and put it somewhere as your start point. And then take your time trying to do the 4 different types of transformation that you can do. I will scan this now and I will attach it to the lesson, so you've got mine as an example of what it is I'm asking you to do. I hope all that's clear. Of course you can ask questions at any point between now and the end of the week if you need help with this. If you find this topic a little bit tricky, you can make your life a lot easier by starting with a simpler shape. Okay, you don't have to go as hard as my M. Do something a little bit, a T or an L or something like that. Okay, that's a little bit easier to work with. Thanks for listening. That's 29 minutes in, so thanks if you've got this far, and I'll speak to you again soon.